All righty. Well, welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All righty. There we go. Do you see that, Alberto? Everybody good on that one?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so let me introduce myself real quickly. I'm Julie Montali. I'm the Director of Early Childhood Education, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to get ready for kindergarten. So we are in a really difficult time. We've never been in this time before. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we get ready for kindergarten in general, but then we're also going to talk a little bit about during this COVID situation, how we can handle what's coming up, because I know it's very stressful. It's stressful for you and it's stressful for our little ones, and knowing sort of what's to come. But hopefully we can help sort of calm everybody down and help you out. We have the chat box. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. And Chelsea, you can help me out by kind of minding the chat box for me. Chelsea is here, my wonderful assistant with me. Okay, so let's get started. Today we are going to be talking about readiness skills as kiddos get ready to enter kindergarten, and especially what you can do at home. We're going to talk a little bit about how to get ready for the first day of school, which again is going to be a little tricky. We have a couple of different plans that we're getting into place, and I'll share a little bit with you on that. And then we're going to talk about sort of guidelines for success in kindergarten as your kiddos get started. Okay. So beginning kindergartners, one of the things is that I'm sad that I don't get to be in person with you because it's not quite the same. So we're going to use the chat box to see if you guys can give me a little bit of information on what your kiddos do. Whoop, sorry, my screen has flipped over. Let's get that back up. What are some of the things that we can do to help get kiddos ready? What are those things that as kids come into kindergarten, what should they be able to do? And Chelsea, for some reason, I'm not seeing my chat box, so maybe you can let me know if you see any. So as you're working with your kiddos this summer, make sure they can say their name and their address. They don't have to know all their numbers and letters. I don't want to scare you, but maybe just a few. I would start with their names. Can they identify basic shapes? A circle, a triangle, a square, that sort of thing.
You had someone in the chat, Carrie Rash, say know and recognize their ABCs, write their name, numbers 1 through 5, shapes and colors.
Excellent. You've already got it dialed in, Carrie. That's awesome. One that you might not have thought about is matching objects. That's kind of a fun way, and you can do this. We're going to talk in just a few slides about how to get your chores done at the same time as doing some of these fun things like matching objects. You know that the old trick with the lost sock in the dryer. Counting to 10, 5 is a great start, Carrie, you're absolutely right. Here are two things that maybe you haven't thought about. We really like to get the kids starting to play with rhyming. So when you're just maybe in the car or you're taking a walk, look around and talk about, oh, I see a cat. What rhymes with cat? And you can talk about cat, hat, sat, and how that last sound we hear is the same in all those words. So rhyming is a good one to just kind of start working with them. And you might wonder why. The reason is it's a really important skill for learning to read. The second thing that you might see on my screen that's at the bottom there that's a little bit different is beginning to understand same and different. So a lot of math concepts sort of hinge on this idea of patterns and what same and different and sorting. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute too. So how are some ways that you can practice? So when you're leaving and coming home, make sure your kiddos are looking at the numbers on your apartment, on your house, on the street. Make sure that you're practicing their address as you come and go from your home. Another really good one is to think about when they're eating cereal. Kids like to stare at the cereal box. It's a great place to find letters. See if they can recognize some of them. Can they find maybe a letter in their name, especially what we call their special letter, their first letter. You can, if you're, I know we're not really in stores as much as normal, but maybe if you're walking by and you see a big sign like the 99-cent store, that's a great one because it's all over the place. If you see an exit sign, you know, what letters do they see? And capital letters are always easier than lowercase, so it's a good place to start. So look around your environment. It doesn't have to be something that you go search for. It's got to be something that's just easy, right in your front view. We're all really busy. I'm a mom of 3 and sometimes 4 kids, and sometimes more. And believe me, I know how busy it is. So the easier you can make it on you and make it fun and just sort of how you know, play along with your kiddos and talk with your kiddos every day, this is the way to go. Let's look at some other ideas. So finding shapes in their environment, and this is a really fun one. If you have kids name for you what they see and sort of draw with their finger in the air, that they see a rectangle on a door, or they see a triangle on a roof, or maybe a circle or an apple. Talking about colors and talking about shapes, and it's not something you have to just stop everything you're doing to do. You can just do it as you're doing other things. If you want to keep them busy, you can put them on a little scavenger hunt and say, go find 5 things that are a square. Maybe they'll come back with, you know, a book and some other knickknacks, a toy, a piece of paper, maybe a rectangle. So these are just kind of ways you can do this just in your everyday life, because I do know how busy everybody is, especially now. Here's another one, getting some chores done, matching those socks in the laundry. Putting their shoes together. How many times when my kids were little, they would, you know, I'd find one shoe in one room and one shoe in another room. So having them match things. If you're setting the table or if you're putting dishes away, putting forks together and spoons together in the drawer. Again, you get your work done, you get your chores done, but you're also using it as a great learning tool. So those are some kind of fun things and also easy things to do. Plus, I'll tell you that the other kind of great aspect of that is kids want to be part of the house. Now, if you ask kids, do you want to do chores? What do you think they're going to say, right? My kids will say, no, thank you. But you can make it fun, and what you're doing is you're giving them a role in the home. So they're part of how your household operates. And you can start when they're very little with that. It might be just little tiny things. So do think about that, especially as they're going to kindergarten. Counting. So Carrie brought up the fact that it'd be great for kids to count from 1 to 5. You can work on 1 to 10. Counting, we call it counting collections in education speak. And all that is counting groups of things, and it can be anything you want. You'll see on my slide here, I've got a group of fruits, some toy cars, some buttons, and some crackers. One of the fun games that you can play with kiddos is for them to tell you how things go together or what doesn't belong. So for instance, I might say to you, well, I think that the fruits and the crackers go together because they're both foods, they're both things we eat. But then maybe a brother or sister can say, well, I think that the buttons and the fruit go together because they're both round. So getting kids to talk about what they see and why they put things together, because patterns are everywhere. And if you want to know the truth, patterning used to be a standard in math. Now it's what we call a standard of mathematical practice. That's kind of a big phrase to say it's throughout all of our math standards. So it's a really important sort of anchor thing. And if you can start having kids talk about what they see and how things either go together or don't belong, then you get to hear how they're processing this. So I might say, well, the wheels on that car are round, so I'm going to put the cars and the buttons together. Well, my sister might say, but the crackers and the cars are both kind of rectangle shapes, so I think they go together. So there's really not a right or wrong, depending on what your thinking is. And that is really what Common Core is all about. So let me pause for a second, make sure there aren't any questions about that, because that's a lot to remember. All righty, let's go on to motor skills. There are 2 categories. One is fine motor, which is basically how we use our small motor, muscles, generally in our hands and our fingers. So it's writing our name and beginning to use scissors and markers and how we unzip and how we button things. So dressing ourselves, can we snap? That takes a lot of muscular strength and what we call dexterity. Then we have the second, which is the gross motor. Those are those big, large muscles like throwing a ball or kicking or jumping or hopping or skipping. If you have junk mail that comes through that you don't need or old magazines, this is a great place to give your kids practice at cutting things out. So granted, you want to supervise them, but I know a lot of parents get sort of afraid of letting their kids use scissors, and I really encourage you. A lot of kids are coming in now to kindergarten that haven't used scissors, don't know how to. I would encourage you to have them use child scissors. They're very easily accessible at the dollar store. You get a pack of 2 usually, and it's a really important skill. So that's one thing you can do is have them practice cutting, the old mail that you don't need. They can even take their crayons and circle letters that they find in old magazines. Just make sure that they're appropriate magazines. Make sure they're practicing zippering and buttoning. Let them try it first. A lot of times as a mom, I know that was much easier for me to do it really quickly and just do it myself. And I'd have to stop and think, wait, I want them to try to do it first. So let them try, and if they need a little help, you can of course help them out. But we want to get that independent skill. If you can get your hands on some chalk, they sell that a lot at the Dollar Tree. That's a great one to get outside in the fresh air and chalk on the sidewalk, and it's easy to, little water and it's all gone. And of course, getting out and getting some fresh air, kicking a ball, running around, chasing you and playing, fun games. And believe me, it's good for us adults too, right? To get running around with our kids. Sometimes we forget how much fun it is until we get back out there. So those are your two motor groups. So writing and just having fun with it. I don't want you to feel like everything has to be perfect. They just need to experience. And then letting them do things like unbutton and button and zipper, and then getting out there to kick a ball around and run around. Try to hop on one foot. Try to skip. Skipping is a hard skill for our little guys. So it's kind of hard for some of us old people too. Okay, so we're going to move on to social interactions. And this is going to be a little trickier for us because of COVID. But we're going to talk about, yeah.
Before, there was a question that was about scissors for left-handed children. Since we were in the motor, I wanted to mention it.
Absolutely. So they actually do have scissors that are for left-handers. I married into a family of left-handers, and so my mother-in-law says that the whole world's against her because she's so left-handed, she can't bear to use anything that's right-handed. So yes, they do make left-hander scissors, and if a child is left-handed, I know that sort of the old school way was to make them right-handed because that was the way to go. I think we've moved out of that, but just for you to know that left-handers are okay. Like I said, I married one. So just, make sure you can pick up the right kind for them, and you still want them to use the same kind of cutting motion as a right-hander. One trick, you guys, if you have them lay on their tummies, and so they're like sort of propping themselves up with their elbows, and they cut, say an old magazine or an old piece of junk mail, it actually helps them cut in a proper technique. And it sounds kind of funny, but if you get them laying on the ground on their tummies and then kind of prop themselves up and cut, it actually will teach them the right positioning. I learned that from one of my physical therapist and OT friends. Okay, thank you for keeping up on that chat box for me, Chelsea. Keep doing that. So let's talk a little bit about social interactions. We want kids to really speak in full sentences. So if you have a habit of asking your kiddo a question, whether it's in English, Spanish, or any language, sometimes we let them get away with just answering in one word. Do you want milk? Yeah. Or which one do you want, milk or juice? Juice. Try to get them to say a full sentence. And sometimes you just have to start them off. I would like juice. I would like another cookie. Please, you can add some polite words. It's okay if they're just sort of approximating it, but encourage that full sentence instead of a one-word answer. This will get them ready for what teachers will be working with them on. Sharing and taking turns. That's a hard one because I know we don't really have an opportunity to have play dates. So if you have other children or you have just yourselves, do things together where you have to share and they have to share with you. Following instructions. So it's another way. You can also do this in a real game-like way by saying, okay, I'm going to give you something really important to do, and give them 2 things to do. And if they're really good at, say, go get your jacket and then put your shoes on. Then add a third thing. See if they can remember all three and do them in that sequence. Now, if your child is having a difficult time following just a one-step direction, then you want to stick with that for now. As they get better at following that one direction, then add a second step. But that's a really important thing to get used to following directions. So whether we are in a physical space or if we're doing Zoom online kind of learning, following a direction is going to be really important. We talked a little bit about helping out at home, so giving them little small jobs helps you and it helps them become independent, and they really like it. The last thing on my list here, these are kind of our magic list of how to do some social interaction, is listening to a story. So having your kids choose a book and listen to the story, or have them just talk about the pictures. Let them tell you the story. They can make it up. That is a great way to go. If there's a book, if your kids are like mine when they were little, we read the same books over and over. They love that repetition. I think that's wonderful. If you want to sort of break it up a little, maybe you ask them, well, if you were the writer of this story, the author, what would you do for a different ending? Maybe let's pretend that, Charlie didn't find the alligator under his bed. Where do you think the alligator might have hidden? That's a cute book that I've read with my kids. So there are ways that you can, if you have just a small selection of books, you can make up different stories with the pictures. You can do, have them make up a different title to the story. What do you want to call this story? The author called, it The Three Little Pigs, but what do you want to call it? Maybe it's The Three Different Houses, something like that. So I know that we are in a really hard time for social interactions. So you'll see on my next slide here, how do I prepare my kiddo? Well, here would be things that I would tell you to do under normal circumstances. Go to family gatherings, go to parks, church programs, play dates, guiding your child, if you're out at any kind of a setting with other kids. But that's not happening right now. And we need to make sure that the health and safety of you and your kids is the most important thing. So what kinds of things do you think we could do to help kids understand social interaction if they can't actually do it with other kids and other families? Maybe you could put in the chat box if you have any ideas. And Chelsea, I'll have you keep an eye on that.
Me and Heriberto, because there's a lot of Spanish responses. So.
Oh.
Well, what I was going to say, typically for the one in Spanish, I usually, it's mostly, right now it says all is applicable when it comes to children from preschool. It's mostly just comments that some of them are sharing. And some of them, Ms. Rash is saying that she plays with siblings or other adults in the house, or games as far as taking turns.
Very good. So yeah, you're sort of limited maybe on the people that can be around them. So this is where you can use stories. There's some great videos. I'm going to show you a couple of places that I think are really great. Making sure that you are not solving their problems. Let them have the time to solve their problems, helping them use their words, and try not to just say, use your words, help them figure out what words to use and give them choices. Like if they're having a hard time sharing with their siblings, you know, ask them, do you want to trade the toys or do you want to take turns with a timer? And then you can put, you know, a little, there's all kinds of little free visual timers you can even use on your computers. So think of the things that work for your family and your circumstance, but keep in mind how important those interactions are. So we're actually going to skip this because I don't think we have this ability to do this on, but we do have this. So here's one of the big things for you guys to think about is fostering independence in your kiddos. So yes, our babies are growing up. So there is we're going to launch a poll here in a second. Here it is. Okay. So you're going to see, I'll launch that in just a second. You're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things that are really great to help your kiddo to do. What I'd like you to do is in the poll, you're going to be able to select either my child does this well, like meaning this is real easy for them, or you can select my child needs to work on this, and that'll give you a sense of, okay, this is a skill that I really want to make sure that they get independent with. So I'm going to launch the poll, and what you'll see is using the bathroom and washing hands independently. Are they coughing or sneezing into the elbow? Or do you feel like you have to always remind them to do that? How are they from drinking and opening, you know, things like juice boxes and feeding and that kind of stuff? Zipper and buttoning clothing, using eating utensils. So make sure they're using them themselves. And then, of course, cleaning up when asked, because that's, of course, a big one at school is learning how to be responsible. So I'm looking at the poll. We've got about 1/3 of you guys coming in here. That's great. We've got, looks like most of you guys have kiddos that are pretty good with using the bathroom independently and drinking from a cup, using eating utensils. Excellent. Cleaning up when asked is always a tough one, right? Because it's not so much that they can't do it, but sometimes they, you know, they don't really want to. So that's something that you can work on with them. And you can say, this is what kindergartners do. You know, they love to hear this is, you're a big kindergartner now, so you have to practice putting your toys away. The clothing one is a big one that we see in kindergarten. And I think most of the time, like I said, people tend to be in a hurry and they want to just zipper and button and help them get ready because it's quicker. I know that's how it was for me as a mom when my kids were young. So make an effort to really have them work on that themselves, especially when you're home right now. Hopefully, you know, you're not quite as in a rush to get out of the house. Some of you might be, but it looks like we've got about 2/3 of you guys, your kiddo's doing well with the dressing piece. About half and half of the coughing and sneezing, and I think that's pretty typical. Okay, thank you guys for participating in that. Let me go back to the slides here. Let's talk a little bit about first day of school. This is a tough one. We may or may not be in a physical school, or we might be where kiddos come some days and then they're home other days. So there are many plans being worked out right now. And as soon as that, we're doing surveys with families. You're going to see another survey coming soon about what would help in terms of safety and health precautions. We're working on all that to get you guys back in school for the fall. There will be some kind of school, whether it's all virtual, all physical in school, or a combination of both, okay? So regardless of how, we want to make sure that you are thinking about how to connect with the new teacher. If it ends up being a distance learning thing, it would be over like a Zoom like this, or hopefully we'll be able to see you face to face. Talk with your kiddo to make sure they know what to expect as you learn what to expect. If we're back and everything's normal, or at whatever point that happens, make sure that kids know who's picking them up and how they're getting back. Are they a bus kid? If they're a walker, is it you walking and picking them up? Is it grandma? Is it a neighbor? Is it extended daycare? The more kids understand what to expect, the better. Just think about ourselves, right? We need to know, we're nervous. All of us are a little nervous because we don't know exactly what to expect in this COVID situation. So you can imagine if you're a little guy, it's, you know, it's really nerve-wracking. So kids will follow your example. If you're super nervous about things, then that's going to make them nervous. If you're really confident, like, hey, have a great day, and I'm going to see you at the end of the day and you can tell me your favorite thing you did, and I can't wait to hear about it. I'm so excited. So first day of school is really important to kind of get ready for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a really quick little video. Lupita, I'm sure you can translate this as we go. And let's see, need to do a new share here. Okay. And then I need to, let me do so you can hear it. All right.
A school is where we go to learn. In school, you get to learn about science, like weather and machines. And math, like adding, subtracting, and counting. You also get to learn about language arts, like reading books and writing stories. School is the perfect place to learn about technology, like computers and robots. And don't forget about the special subjects like art, music, and PE. While you're learning all of those amazing new things, you also get to hang out with some pretty great people. Like your friends, of course. But the grown-ups in your school are pretty cool too. All the grown-ups in your school are there to teach you, to be there for you, and to cheer for you.
Did you know you could do that?
Just think of all the amazing grown-ups, like your teacher, your principal, the custodian, the school lunch staff, bus drivers, all there for you.
Oh, it's like a pirate laugh.
Your school could be a great big building with lots of kids and grown-ups. Or your school could be in your home. You might also be learning something new at a gym, a park, an auditorium. Kids in Iowa, and grown-ups too, are learning new and amazing things in lots of different places.
Any place where people are learning is a school.
All right, let's go back to our PowerPoint. And we had a question that I think is a really wonderful question. If you don't speak a lot of English, I don't want you to worry about that. We can take care of the English side of it. Your job is to, in your home language, whether that's Spanish or for parents who speak another language, is to work with your child in their home language. It is incredibly important that we maintain and keep developing Spanish or whatever the home language is. So I want you to know that I know that that's a concern sometimes for parents who feel like they don't have as much in terms of English. Don't worry about that. I promise you, building your home language is just as important. In fact, it may even be in some ways more important. We are really about a philosophy of developing dual language learners, and I want you to know that it is incredibly important, and feel very confident that reading to your child, doing the ABCs and counting in another language will translate to how they learn English. Language is language. They might take a little bit more time with English, but in the end, they will be better off because they will be dual language capable. Does that help everybody who's worried about that? Let me know in the chat box, Chelsea. Okay. So let's get you guys ready for a successful kindergarten year, no matter how it happens. Make sure you're involved with your kiddo's school. Being here today is a great first step, and we appreciate that you are here. Read with your child daily, and I do mean in any language. I'm going to show you our website, if you're not familiar with it, that has ways that you can, if you want to build more English in or another language, I'm going to show you a couple of my favorite ways to do that. But absolutely read with your child in your home language. Making sure there's a bedtime routine. I know that's hard, but food and good food, good sleep, it definitely makes a difference. Providing social interactions and encouraging independent playtime. So I know again it's hard because of COVID, but where you can have the social interactions with kids, that's great. Also, encouraging them to play by themselves and create and learn and think on their own is a really great skill. So try to build if they have a hard time playing by themselves for more than just a couple minutes, see if you can try to build that time. Say, oh, I'm going to do this over here. You play and build me some tower with your blocks, or draw me a picture, and see if you can sort of extend that time a little bit longer and longer. Being able to be independent is really important. So limit screen time. I would say quality over quantity, and I'm going to show you our website where it'll give you some really good places to go for when you do want to have them on the screen time. But try to be careful about how much screen time they're on, which is hard right now. Things that you can think about. I know that when my kids, were in school, and even as a kid myself, how was your day? Good. Or what did you do today? Nothing, right? How many times did we say that to our own parents? So think about a different way to ask the question. What was your favorite part of the day? Who did you play with? What was the story you read? Think of things that they actually have to answer the question instead of saying, nothing, it was fine, it's good. Usually the little ones are better at that, but then as they get older, you start to get the, I don't know what I did. It's okay if they say, their favorite part was recess. It's a good part of the day. And if you can, show pride in your kiddos' work, if you put it on the refrigerator, they've written their name for the first time. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you have an old picture frame, put their artwork in a picture frame and display it. They really love that. It sounds easy, but sometimes we just forget. A lot of what we're talking about today is we just kind of forget to practice things. We forget about some of these things. They are common sense, but it's kind of a lot when you think about all the stuff that goes into getting a little person ready for kindergarten. Okay, I want to take a quick detour into our TK, pre-K TK distance learning, because I think what you're going to find is that this is a helpful tool for you over the summer. Chelsea, did my screen switch over? Nope, let me do a new share.
A new share.
Yep. Okay, how are we there? Good. Okay, so we go through the coronavirus page, and then you're familiar with, hopefully, continued learning. I'm going to do learn more. Part of the what the information you'll get from Herberto is a little quick guide to this, and so don't worry if you're not familiar of the steps to get there. We have screenshots and stuff. So we go to pre-K TK. I would stick with this one. There's a kinder one as well, but this one is a little bit more geared to our beginning kindergartners. You will see on the front page here, there's a new something that comes up every week. So for instance, this week is Every Kid Healthy Week. You've seen some information from Herberto on this. We try to keep this page up to date. There's some of my favorites, PBS Learning Media. So you can just click on these and they go straight to the videos. These three little videos right here are Meet the Helpers. They're maybe 2 minutes long, so they're not super long, but they help explain what's going on in super kid-friendly terms. So ways that if you're finding a hard time explaining things about COVID and coronavirus, social distancing, and what all this means, it's a great resource for you. This has usually other things. This is about the census, and then library online. Ideas for a schedule that you can sort of follow. So you can sort of scroll down. All these links are clickable. So let me just show you one of my favorites, especially for language development. You go to story time. I switched over, right, Chelsea? So Unite for Literacy is a wonderful website. It has some really great books. You'll see it's loading here. What you're going to notice is there's English, but there's also Spanish, and actually there are 40 other languages. You can go to the narration. So if you're worried about having stories read to your kiddo in English, you can take care of the Spanish or another language, and then you can go to pick just a really fun little book, Peanut Butter and Jelly Song. You'll see there's lots of animals, people in the community, just great things that kids are really naturally interested in, the storms and sun and water. You can have that narrated, and it shows pictures and it shows the words. It is one of my favorites. So that is one. You'll also note, I'm going to go back to the home page, that you're going to see a camera here, a video camera. Everywhere you go that has this video camera, you can click. And these are going to be mostly videos from our Twin Rivers staff. And we've put everything through what's called Safe YouTube. So they're safe for your kids, and there is no advertisements on there. So you can feel good about sending your kiddo to the Play and Learn video library, and they can click around and they can use these icons for math and science, and they can click onto any of those pages, and you can feel really good about, certainly you should supervise, but if you're cooking and they're sitting down and they want to watch a couple of fun videos, this is a great place to, so if your eyes do go somewhere else for a few minutes, you know that they're safe on this. There's also some really good resources for parents on the parent page, and we have a Spanish page. We have some wonderful virtual field trips. You can go to Monterey Aquarium. So lots and lots of good things here. So you don't have to worry about searching. You can know that you can go to a one-stop shop. So hopefully that will be a helpful resource for you. And again, let me make sure you know that we have a step-by-step guide with screenshots how to get to that page. Okay. So that comes to the end of our getting ready. But a question that always comes up is around our immunizations and sort of the things that you have to do in that regard to get ready. So I have the lovely Claudia Ponce Cortez, who is a wonderful partner in all of this. She's one of our school nurses. And so I'm going to turn it over to Claudia. And Claudia, I'll click for you if you just tell me when.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here. So I'm going to talk about like the basic health requirements for when you start TK in kindergarten. And at the end, we'll probably talk about preschool. Every student needs a physical, needs a physical exam and a dental exam the first year that you start school. Every school is kind of different, but pretty much they all want it at the beginning of the school year. So it's okay if your physical or that dental exam is kind of old. As long as it's not older than a year, we can still use it. And then once you go back, you can bring us an updated one. So if you feel like, oh, I can't turn it in because he's due like in 3 months, you can bring us one of the old physical that they had the year before and then update us later. And then these two forms that you see are like samples of what they come in the registration packet for TK and kindergarten. Julie? And then one of the big things is immunizations. If you don't have your immunization record, you won't be able to enroll your child in school. And then right here, we can see the requirements. We need 5 doses of DTP, 4 doses of polio, 3 doses of hepatitis B, 2 doses of MMR, and 2 doses of varicella. It's okay. I know some parents decided not to immunize their child right away. So if you're on a catch-up schedule, you can still enroll them as long as you take them back and give them the next series when it's due, that you don't stay behind. Julie? And then I just wanted to remind everyone that if you had a child in preschool, or even if you're going to be new to TK and kindergarten, and you need any specialized service, like you need an inhaler, you need an EpiPen for allergies, Tylenol, Benadryl, insulin if your child happens to be diabetic or they have seizures, or even tube feedings, we have a special form that the doctor needs to fill out and authorize for us to be able to provide the service. And all of those forms can be found on the website. But if you want to email us, we can, find a way to email it back to you or mail it back even to you or the doctor.
So now we'd like to open it up to any questions for either myself or for Ms. Claudia.
Okay, I know you have one that I don't know if it would be best for Claudia or Julie. Crystal Harding says, should speech therapy for any child, preschool or primary, go through a referral from the pediatrician? And then does the district or school site offer additional support services to help with speech?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that one. And Claude, if you'd like to jump in, you're welcome to. So if you have concerns around your child's speech, when we start back in school, you'll want to bring that up to your teacher. Sometimes the speech and language issues are really just developmental. So we want to make sure that it's not something that is typical for an age. If you have great concerns, I wouldn't wait right now. I would definitely talk with your doctor and see what they say. Speech services are delivered at the school, but there's also, for instance, people who have Kaiser and other health insurance, they can get started with that sooner than later. We actually operate our speech services during the school calendar. But if you're very concerned right now, you can start with your doctor and then you can move to the school. What happens with our kiddos that actually receive speech therapy is they have had a speech evaluation, and then it has been determined that they need the extra speech services and that it's not, something that is developmental. It needs a little bit of extra intervention. And so we help determine that with an assessment. So those would be the two ways to go. You can actually go through your doctor or through the school.
Both preschool and K-12 students can receive speech services if they qualify.
And then an add on to that was when you're mentioning the physical and dental exams, Claudia, it says for preschoolers, are both the physical and dental exams required for enrollment?
We don't require a dental exam because we do provide a dental screening ourselves. But we do require the physical exam. And the immunizations kind of vary on those. In a way, you kind of just have to have one less of each of them. So instead of 4 DTaps, you need 3. Instead of 4 polios, instead of 5 DTaps, you need 4. Instead of 4 polios, you need 3. Instead of 2 MMRs, you need 1. Instead of 2 varicellas, you need 1. And then 1 Hib. And that would complete our requirements for immunization.
And then Julie, I'm not 100% positive. I think for Head Start program for the preschool, the dental exam is required.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So just
if
want to
you're
see.
going to a Head Start program, either the ones in our district, like Maury Avenue, Oakdale has a Head Start program. Rio Linda and Village Elementary have a Head Start preschool program. You would need a dental and physical exam.
Awesome. Thank you, Claudia. Mm-hmm. And then I know we had some questions about preschool enrollment, how to enroll, when they are able to enroll.
So those are great questions. Because of the COVID situation, we are actually, and Chelsea knows a lot about this because she's been working to the bone to get this up and ready, is we're working on an online enrollment. And so right now we would have you email us, but in the next couple of days, we should have our enrollment up first for English, and we're working on that translation as quickly as possible to get it up for Spanish. But anybody who has questions is welcome to email either myself or Chelsea. So Chelsea, maybe you can put your name in the chat box since it's not correct on the.
Yeah, and I'll definitely, the best email I think to reach out to, we created an email for preschool enrollments.
Is it up and running?
Yeah, so okay, it's going to be.
Put that one in the chat box. So you should be seeing on our website very soon the online enrollment. Now, just so you know, for both our state preschool programs and our Head Start, which is run by the federal system, so there's a little bit different requirements. They're both excellent programs and they're both part of Twin Rivers. You do have to qualify for certain programs. So there'll be information on what paperwork you would need and how to qualify. Because of COVID, we are, like the whole district, not exactly sure what that's going to look like in terms of when kids will be able to physically come back. But do know that we are running some online summer programs. So they'll be virtual through June and July. And then we are hoping to be able to do something, at least some physical piece, having kids actually come physically to the school in August. That will all depend on what our whole district does. And so I would say visit that website for the most up-to-date information. I believe it will be changing over time. So just keep going back to the website. But yes, definitely, Chelsea will put that email address into the chat box, and we will be collecting information and reaching right back out to all you guys who are interested in having your kiddos come to preschool with us. We'd love to have you.
Okay, I had a couple more questions on preschool. It said, if my child's at Fairbanks for preschool, would I still need to fill out the full enrollment packet for my child?
You should be getting calls for re-enrollment, but you can actually, so it's going to be a little simpler for you if you're already in there. But I would say go ahead and email that same email address, and we will connect right back with you.
Okay, perfect. And I'm sending the email address for the preschool enrollment questions out again, but just in case you can't see it in the chat, it's enroll pre-K, ENROLLPREK at twinriversusd.org. And again, I'll write that, but just in case, I might be having problems. And then the other question that we have,
you know what, and Roberto, when you send out the information, the follow-up from this session, Mr. Soto, then you can include that as well. Thank you. Go ahead, Chelsea.
And then I had another one that said preschool is 3 years. Would that be Head Start?
So we actually have early Head Start. And so we actually start with 18-month-olds, and we are expanding that program. It goes all the way through 4 years old before kindergarten. So they could spend 3 years with us prior to kindergarten.
Perfect. And then the only other one I saw earlier, we had a question about kinder enrollment. I don't know if Heriberto had more information on it or if you do. A parent was just asking like the process to enroll their kindergartner into school. Do you know?
Yeah.
I can mention that as well. I sent the link from Student Services. If I could, I'll probably, they're happening where they're doing it through Aries enrollment app. So what I'll do, I'll share that link with you. And what that looks like is there's a form, a link you click on, and they'll ask you, welcoming, for you to be enrolled into Aries. They'll ask you to create an account, and then they'll ask you to verify your address. And based on the address, you'll be able to then log in and upload your documents. There are questions when it comes to what if I don't have, in this case, dental record, or do I have a physical? Well, in that case, there's also a helpline you can contact. In this case, Student Services will be working with the school site in ensuring that your child is being enrolled and the steps along the way. Obviously, this next couple months into the school year looks a little bit different. I can screen share this as well. So let me just do this very quickly. So you should hopefully see this presentation, the website for Twin Rivers. And what you'll see is if you go to the main website, obviously there's a notification. There'll be pop-up. You would go to, in this case, students and families, and click on enrollment. And in this section right here, I sent this as a link. I click on the Aries enrollment page. And then from there, it'll direct you to a landing page where you'll start enrolling your child. This is going to say, what is needed as far as guidelines. You can create it in English and Spanish. And then what you do is enroll your student, saying you're a new student. Once you have started the process, you create an account, and then you say, well, this is for next year. You're enrolling your child. and you click next. And then what it'll be is, it'll be information that's required, obviously. Some of these will be either through PDFs or photos, or in some cases, if you need more assistance, that's where our student services helpline to answer some of those questions. And then you click next right here. And then this is where you'll start asking questions about, or in this case, you create an account and then asking to put in your address and then upload those documents. You go back to the beginning. Okay. So, and then there's a helpline that in case there's any questions, let me go back. Let me dismiss this again. So if there's any issues or any questions or families that have need when it comes to accessing enrollment, obviously our goal is to provide all families if there's an issue when it comes to technology or documents. Right here is the helpline that you could call or email them as well. I'm going to copy this and send this within the chat as well.
You know what? I also saw a couple of questions in here. So there was a question about Noralto that, and I'm not sure what grade level the child was, and now I can't find the question again. But so Noralto.
Preschool.
So it's Noralto. It
Yeah.
is still Noralto. They are in process of that, looking at a name change, but it's currently still Noralto.
And then I know there's one question in Spanish.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So it says, I already pre-enrolled my child. When is the enrollment? Oh yeah. So it says I already did pre-enrollment for my child. It says that I received the letter saying that pre-enrolled. What should I be doing? In that case, once I already received notification that my child is pre-enrolled for school.
Is that for school age or preschool?
You provide a response for one for preschool, one for school age or primary.
So the sites will individually handle if it's an enrollment for kindergarten, and then the central office, our ECE staff are working on those right now. For the part day classes, we start in August, the same day as the school schedule is. For our if it's a full day preschool class, which is still on home virtual right now, it goes through the entire year. So as soon as things change, we will be letting teachers and families know. So it's right now, there's not we usually work on a July 1st start date for the year for full day, but they are enrolled throughout the year on really any date. So it's a rolling sort of enrollment. I'm looking to see if there were any other questions. I think we got them. If there's anything that we missed, or if there was a Spanish question that we didn't see. I think that's it. But we're happy to answer questions afterward. If you have, send us an email. Alberto can contact and get your questions to the right people if it's not us, and we're happy to help in any way we can and answer questions as things change, because I know that it's very hard to be flexible, but we appreciate you being flexible. I guess we're all working on that, but we look forward to having your kiddos with us or continuing to have them with us. I hope you'll enjoy the website that we've put together. I personally update it So every week there's new videos and new things. I do know that a couple of you guys mentioned like ABC Mouse. There is if you go into the website under the academic learning page, ABC Mouse is there. It's also, there's a letter that gives you a free registration right next to the link, so that because typically it's you have to register and they charge you for it, but they're not right now. So we're trying to make sure that everything on the website is for free. It may be temporarily free, but most of them are free regardless. So check it out and let us know what you think. We'll be interested to hear your feedback.
And Dr. Montali, can you mention really quickly about Ready Rosie as well?
Ready Rosie is an online parent resource that we actually use with all of our Head Starts, and we may start doing that at a wider group if we have to continue with the distance learning. Right now, all of our Head Start folks use that. It's a great resource with great videos. The other one I can tell you that's really good and free is Vroom, VROOM. It's also on our parent resource page, and you just get like a little text every day on an activity that you can do. It's got a lot of similarities to Ready Rosie. So there's a lot of really good resources there. Hopefully because there's almost too many, that we have narrowed it down for you, so you hopefully won't be overwhelmed by the amount of resources out there.
So with that, I think we're pretty much done for today.
Okay.
For families, I just shared also the email for Ms. Claudia as well. If you can save one of the things just to let you know for families is you can save the chat where it says the 3 dots, right click it and then we'll save the chat. Oh, there's one more question. So I'm gonna ask this last question, and then this is from Natalia. It says, I already turned in all enrollment paper for my kindergartner. Do I need to do anything else? Do I need to do enrollment for distance learning for fall as well for my kindergarten?
No, you're all set, Natalia. So the school will reach out to you when they have the class list made up, and they'll be letting you know what sort of education programming we'll be doing, whether that's online or partial both coming to school and doing part distance learning. So if you are registered, you are all set.
And with that, we want to appreciate Ms. Claudia, Ms. Chelsea, Dr. Montali, Ms. Lupita, for you being here today. As I mentioned before, Dr. Montali mentioned we'll share the presentation, the handouts, and the video, and all the contacts from us as well shared within the chat. We appreciate you being here. With that,